For centuries, the shame of a nation. Now a symbol of national pride, this imposing mass of stones and buried bones is a monument to the thin line between vision and paranoia, between industriousness and madness. Now a wonder of the ancient and the modern world, the Great Wall of China, on Modern Marvels. The Great Wall of China became the unofficial symbol of the Chinese nation in 1972, when then-President Richard Nixon walked upon it during his tour marking U.S. diplomatic recognition of China.
I think that you would have to conclude that this is a great wall and that it had to be built by a great people.
But the Chinese themselves have not always taken such pride in the Great Wall.
The traditional Chinese view of the wall was that it was a symbol of oppressive government and military weakness and futility. It was a symbol of the suffering of ordinary Chinese people under despotic rule.
It rises where the mountains meet the sea at Shanhaiquan and snakes its way across northern China to the edge of the Gobi Desert, forming the spine of a system of so-called long walls that sprawl over thousands of miles of the Chinese landscape. Estimates of its length range between 1,500 and 4,000 miles, and its grandeur has been widely celebrated in myth and legend. Yet the existence of the Great Wall remained unknown to the Western world for more than 1,500 years. Incredibly, it was never depicted in classical Chinese paintings of the period, nor did Marco Polo mention it in writing about his travels in China in the 13th century. In fact, the Chinese did not even refer to a Great Wall of China until the 20th century, after the captivated West gave it a name.
At the beginning of the 20th century, you begin to have the Western idea, which glorifies the wall as a sort of symbol of China. And all of those Western myths are embraced by the Chinese to become part of a new cultural myth for China.
In 1908, author and adventurer William Edgar Gill became the first American to travel the length of the Great Wall. His observations were more enthusiastic than illuminating, and some of his infamous pronouncements have been repeated well into the modern age.
The Great Wall is a symbol of China's golden age. It is 1,700 miles long and the only man-made structure on Earth visible by eye from the moon.
The Great Wall of China cannot be seen from the moon. This myth was widespread at the time of the astronauts' flights, and it's well known in the community of astronauts, of people who've actually been in space, that you cannot see the Great Wall from outer space, but astronauts will tell you that nearly every time they go to speak, someone will ask the question.
Man recently glimpsed the Great Wall from space with highly enhanced thermographic photographs taken by satellite. But other durable myths persist, unlikely to be validated by science.
There were all kinds of calculations in the early 19th century about how you could take all of the stone in the wall and redeploy it around the equator and build walls there, or it would be equivalent to all the houses in England and Scotland. And these are still repeated into the 20th century.
The biggest myth about the Great Wall of China is that there is a Great Wall of China. It is doubtful that the Great Wall ever existed at all as a continuous, homogeneous barrier across northern China. Rather, it is a discontinuous series of walls built at different times by different people for different reasons, joined together, allowed to decay, rebuilt, and extended over a period of some 2,000 years.
Well, I think when people think of the Great Wall, they tend to think of this long, sort of monumental, continuous structure that stretches thousands of miles across the frontier of China. The reality, of course, is quite different, that the wall was built in pieces. Much of it is nothing more than sort of an archaeological midden of fallen down ramparts, and in desert sections of China, much of it's even been buried. So the reality of the wall is not exactly as you see it when you visit Badaling, for instance, outside of Beijing, where it's been perfectly restored.
Well, what we're referring to when we talk about the Great Wall today is usually what remains of the walls that were built by the Ming Dynasty. The ones that they built in the 16th century are quite remarkable. They're solid masonry, climbing up precipitous mountainsides with watchtowers, and it's really very difficult to imagine how they were built and how they were completed.
For all its massive size and solid dimensions, the Great Wall of China remains a mysterious presence. It has never been completely surveyed, and even today no one can be sure of its exact length or route. The history of the Great Wall that has come down to us is a curious mixture of reality and imagination, a little solid information interwoven with vast amounts of myth and tradition, and it is virtually impossible to separate the two. No other civilization seems to have adopted wall building as enthusiastically as the Chinese. The first settlements of Neolithic times were surrounded by barriers of pounded earth. The cornerstone of society was the walled city. Indeed, the Chinese word for city, cheng, also means wall.
China is walls within walls within walls. The Great Wall was the mother of all walls, within which these other concentric circles of walls, right down to the wall around one's private house, which everybody had. Walls are very sort of deeply organic part of Chinese history and culture.
They surrounded their houses and temples with walls and projected their wall consciousness beyond the realm of the mortal world into the kingdom of the gods. The god of walls and moats also had the power over the boundaries between life and death, being appointed to inform the dying of their fates.